Hello crafty friends, this is the Paper Chef here. Have you ever tried to create a triangle fold card using your paper trimmer? Well, there is an easier way, and right now I'm going to show you how to create this card fold using your brother's ScanNCut CM350 or ScanNCut 2. I've already showed how to do this on the SDX 125 model, so if you missed that tutorial, it was posted prior to this one on YouTube. After running out of copper foil, I decided to try using a piece of Pretty Peacock foil, and I actually think it came out even better, and I also like the vertical design better. Both techniques are going to be the same whether you do a vertical design or a horizontal design. Alright, let's get into it. So what I have here on my mat is the other half of a 12 by 12 piece of Pretty Peacock foil. I have a piece of darker Pretty Peacock cardstock to show you. So this is a variation of that color. It's a lighter tone of that color in the foil. Okay, let me bring that closer. You can see I've already cut a triangle out of the foil. And now we're going to cut a triangle on the bottom right half of the mat. Because you can get, out of one 12 by 12 piece of foil, you can get two cards out of it. And you can still have a whole piece left over in the middle section to do other things with. Let me make sure I have the whole ScanNCut in here so you can see it and that there's no glare. I hope that's working for you. So what I'm going to do now is reach for my stylus, which I should have brought with me earlier. Excuse me. And when you turn on your machine, you're going to see pattern and scan. We're not doing any scanning. We're going to use one of the built-in patterns. Okay, all that a triangle fold card is one big triangle. Click on the patterns here, the shapes. Now scroll down and find a triangle. There are a few triangles built into the machine. You want one of these right triangles. In other words, they have to have a 90-degree angle on them. So BA-A037 would work, and BA-A039 would work. We're just going to use the first one, the 37. Now the first thing you need to do is resize your triangle. You're going to resize it so that it's in proportion. Okay, so let me just zoom out a little bit so get a little bit more light in here. There we go. All right, so that's a little better. I hope you can see that a little better. All right, all I've done is put a triangle on the screen. And you're going to check this button here. If you select this button, then you can change the width and the height independently of each other. So we want to go ahead and check that button, and we want to make the width of the triangle 11 inches. I'm just holding my stylus on there to change the width. Okay, and then I'm going to make the height 8.5 inches. You guessed it, it's just like a piece of cardstock. And you could get two of these cards out of one piece of cardstock, but you'd have to use your paper trimmer, and that would be wonky, possibly, unless you have a really good paper trimmer with a big, not a really good one. It doesn't have to be good, it just has to be big, or this makes it hard. So I like using the ScanNCut for things that I can do more accurately on the ScanNCut. Okay, 8.5 by 11. There we go. So now we're going to say set. And now we have this triangle, and I have the Pretty Peacock foil placed on the bottom part of the mat. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it there. Move it off a little bit so it's not too close to the edge of the mat. Then I can go ahead and do my little, I can probably tape down some painter's tape just to make sure. Yeah, I think I'm going to use a little bit of painter's tape. Only because I don't want the other piece of, the other foil, or not the other foil, the same foil. I cut out a triangle earlier and there's a big empty spot, so I'm going to just put a little bit of painter's tape there. You'll see it as I peel it off, just to help keep the foil from slipping. Okay, and when I show you how to create the actual triangles for the card itself, for the out of designer series paper, I'll show you how to fit more than one triangle into the same area so you can conserve on your designer series paper. But for now, we're just creating one of the card bases. So let's just say okay, and we're going to say cut. And now I want to tell you, so we're using the CM350, and we're using a piece of Pretty Peacock foil from the Noble Peacock Sweet. So you need to change your blade depth if you're using a CM350. And when you have really thick cardstock like this, I recommend a blade depth of 6. You can actually see the little bit of the blade pointing out of the bottom, and that's what you want. Just a little bit. Maybe don't do that. My blade's dull, so I'm not going to hurt myself by touching the blade. Okay, so anyway, go to 12 and then turn back to 6. So of course, it depends on how sharp your blade is. And you know, you do a test cut and all that good stuff to make sure. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to say start. And I just want to show you my tape there that I put on there. And you can see there's crazy glares going on with my light because I'm cutting foil. And what I'm doing is I'm holding it, even though you shouldn't really put your fingerprints on the foil. My mat is not very sticky, so I wanted to make sure that foil didn't slip because I only have a couple sheets of it. Really, when I first put it on, I used a brayer to get that to stay on my mat. Let's pop this foil off and move the machine out of the way, and then we'll show you something with the Designer Series paper, and then we'll cut that. It won't be as bright when I cut Designer Series paper. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the mat. I'm going to say, okay, unload the mat. There's an unload mat button. So I'm going to put this down, and I can take this foil off now. And as I was saying, you can use this middle part for cutting out different ornaments and for other elements for your cards. All right, let's get into the Brightly Gleaming Designer Series paper. All right, and it is in our holiday catalog. Okay, so I used for this Brightly Gleaming Designer Series paper. I am cutting the paper foil side up. Okay, because when I make these triangles to use as layers, the foil side is going to be up. Now, when I open these up in the inside, when I open up these cards to show you the inside, you're going to see that the insides of those cards also have Designer Series paper in them, but they have the dull side. So this paper, let me just show you the stack. We have a shiny side, a foiled side, and the colors are copper foil, mossy meadow, pretty peacock, okay, night of navy, and very vanilla. Okay, so when I cut them, like see here, I cut triangles out. I cut it this side up, and that's because the side facing up is going to be the outside of my card. I think these lighter sides went well on the outside, and the foil went well. And there's some more mossy meadow, and there's the last piece of paper. I really should have bought more than one pack of this paper because look, I've already gone through a lot of it. All right, so let's do something I haven't done already. Let's use this one. We'll use the one with the stars on it. And we will cut that. So what I'm going to do is show you how to cut 2 triangles. How to create and cut 2 triangles for the matting. And with the CM350, you can load your mat upside down, which is really nice. You can't do that on the other model that I have. Like, it has to load in one direction. So I'm just using, I'm putting this side of the mat in because this is my stickier side of the mat. I mean, not just the stickier side, it's the better side. It's an easier, I should say, this side of the mat loads easier. I should really say it like that. Now I can use a brayer to help attach the Designer Series paper. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and load the paper and then I'll show you the load button. So watch how I keep my hand on there as I load it. Okay, and it did actually not load right away, even the right way, even though I put in the mat, the side of the mat that loads better. All right, now it loaded. So I'll show you what I did. In case you're new to the ScanNCut, I want you to see every feature and every button. So what I did just now is I used, let me zoom back out, tilt my camera slightly here. I used the load mat button. I used this button here. That's how you load and unload the mat. Let me get my stylus. And now, you could save this, but we're not going to save it. I do teach about saving and retrieving files in my courses, but we're going to go home and erase all that. Right now, we're just making this card. So we don't need to save anything right now. Now we're going to go back to pattern and we're going to create the 2 triangles for our front of our card. Well, actually, I've already cut out a couple triangles, so we're going to create a couple more. So we are going to go back into the shape, and we're going to select that same triangle from before. Now, whenever I make mattings for my cards, matting and layering, I like to always use a 1/4 inch rule. So I always make things go a 1/4 inch from the edge. And so the same concept applies. So if I have, for example, this card base, or this card base, this is the copper one and the foil ones. These are 5.5 by 4 1/4. So therefore, since let me just go ahead and check that button for the proportion. Since the card is 5.5, I'm going to make the width 5 1/4. In other words, a 1/4 inch smaller than the card itself. Right, 5.25. Okay, since the height is 4.25, I'm going to make of the card, I'm going to make that 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, that'll give me 1/4 inch margins, and you'll see how I put this together in the next part of this tutorial. So let's add 1 triangle for now. Okay, let's add 1 triangle. Now let's just put the triangle right here. Now I'll just move it down a little. So now what I want to do is I'm going to duplicate the triangle, and then I'm going to show you how to rotate it so that you can fit 2 triangles in that area. So I could have just added 2 triangles before, but they would be facing the same way. So I'll show you that first. Let's duplicate. I'm going to go into that, and I'm just going to duplicate. I'm going to add 2 triangles. See how they're facing the same way? And that wouldn't be good because they would be on top of each other if I tried to cut them, right? Selecting them just to show you. So I need to flip one of these. So go back into this. We're in the editing mode, and go back to the height and the width, and we're going to just click on that. And I'm going to go down here to the rotate, click on rotate, and I'm going to click 90 degrees 2 times. And that'll give me a 180 rotation. And then I can put that triangle up there, and I can move this triangle closer to it. And now we have, let's just not too close to the edge of the mat. Never cut too close to the edge of your mat. Even if it lets you, the edge of the mat is usually not as sticky. So as I toggle through those, you can see that they are facing different directions. Okay, so rotate one of your triangles. You'll fit more onto the mat. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and I'm going to cut. And now we have to remember to change your blade depth. Okay, so because I was using a blade depth of 6 when I cut the foil, ooh, that's bright. Sorry, my camera goes crazy. We're going to turn it down to a blade depth of 3. Let me feel this. Yeah, 3 is good. For designer series paper, it's a 3. Even if it's foil designer series paper, 3 should do it. Because even though there's foil on this designer series paper, it's still not thick paper. It's not as thick as cardstock. So now I'm cutting out my triangles, and I'm going to assemble. I'll show you how to assemble the card. I'll show you the materials I used. And if you stick around, I'll even talk about a sale we have going on right now at my Stampin' Up! Store. So lots still to cover, so stick with me. Let's unload this, and let's close this. So we don't need the scan and cut anymore, because everything else I did with stamps and punches and a scoring tool. Okay, so you might be wondering, well, why didn't you score? Let's take this off the mat. Okay. Oops. Yep, it did it. Blade depth of 3. Barely did it, but it did it. So you're probably wondering, why didn't you score using the scan and cut? The scan and cut will score, and sometimes I do use it to score, and I do show that. I will be showing that in my upcoming courses. But the fact of the matter is, you can do a better job. It got caught a little bit. I'm just trimming that. You can do a better job if you use what's called a scoreboard. So I'm going to use a scoreboard instead to create that card. So let me show you what I mean. This is called Simply Scored by Stampin' Up! When I use a scoring tool, a scoring board, and I score my card, then I don't have the perforated lines that the Brother Scan and Cut causes. Okay, I'm able to just have smooth lines. Okay, I'm going to put a piece of cardstock down there just to show you something. I just want to show you the triangle we cut out. So this is our card base. Okay, this is the Pretty Peacock foil card base. And I just want to show you that if you put this on your scoreboard, all you have is a big triangle, okay? And so if you were to flip this over, or here, just flip it over, you could fit 2 of these on one 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. So if you were to try to use a paper trimmer to create this kind of card, which is what I addressed at the beginning of this tutorial, I said, have you ever tried to create a triangle fold card using a paper trimmer? If you were to try to do that, try to create that triangle, right? It may not fit on your paper trimmer, see? My paper trimmer, it wouldn't fit. I do have a different style of paper trimmer where it would fit. So then you have your triangle and you're trying to measure it, and it's really, really hard, and you end up with a wonky triangle. So using your brother's ScanNCut, you make everything well in the world. In other words, you are going to have a perfect triangle, which makes your card look a lot nicer. All right, so let's do this. We're going to take, I just want to go over, we have 11 inches across by 8.5 wide. So we're going to score in half. We're going to make the card. So we're going to score, if it's 11 inches wide, we're going to score at 5.5. Oops, that's not my scoring tool. This is the scoring tool that comes with Simply Scored. It has a thick side and it has a thin side. It doesn't matter which side you use for this. I'm just going to go ahead and use, I'll just go ahead and use the thick side. It doesn't matter. So 5.5 because I'm on the 11-inch wide side. Okay, let me show you that closer up and zoom in and focus here. So you see how I scored at 5.5 because the width of this card was 11 inches. So now when I turn it to the 8.5 side, then I'm going to score at a half point, which is going to be 4.25 right there. I need to put this down though, because you can't score while it's hanging up in the air, right? To put that down. So we're going to put that down and 4.25. Okay, and now we have our card base. And I'm going to then use my little spatula that came with the Brother ScanNCut, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score. I mean, not score, I'm going to fold the card. I'm just turning it over. Okay, because I scored downwards into the foil, then I turn it over and I'm going to fold it this way. Notice one side of this foil is white, but the coordinating color is, one of the coordinating colors was Very Vanilla. That is why I took a piece of Very Vanilla and I'm put it inside the card base, inside the card, and you're going to get to see that. Okay, I need to show you what I fixed, how I fixed this little white part showing through. That's important. And I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to finish scoring. Turn it over and I'm going to score. All right, so I have this card. Now we're done with the scoring tool. And when I did this to the foil, I'm going to go ahead and tilt my camera a bit. Whoa, there's so much glare on that crazy foil, right? So we have what's the white showing through, but it didn't happen when I did the copper cards. So let me show you the copper foil. When I folded those, the white part did not show through. But when I folded the Pretty Peacock foil, the white showed through the card. Okay, zoom back out. Now let me show you how I alleviated that problem. So because I knew that this was Pretty Peacock foil, what I did is I took a sponge and I did some inking, a little bit of Pretty Peacock on the sponge, and what I did is I just colored that using the same color. You probably don't even notice it on my card itself, but I didn't want the white sticking out. I'd rather have I'd like to have dark around all the edges. Okay, this is something I didn't have to show in my STX 125 tutorial I did right prior to this one because it didn't happen. The copper foil didn't have any white core showing through. And you might want to ink around these sides, but don't ink on these middle parts because if you do, it kind of gets onto the mat inside. And if you have you don't want to get ink inside your card. So I would say just ink the outer edges only. And I'm just using a little distress sponge. I'm going to link to that. I'll link to that later. In fact, I have to create a list of all the materials I'm using. So I will be doing that. All right, now I want to show you how I assembled this card and the materials I used and the colors, and I'm going to open up the other cards. Okay, so we're going to take I just want to talk about the way the foil goes, just the direction of your foil and things like that, because the direction of your triangles. So I said whatever side you want on the outside, if you want that shiny side on the outside, then you're going to cut these these triangles with that foil side up, okay? Now this is just something I want to show you, is that you have a 1/4 inch margin, but you can put this up. You can put the foil up on the corner. You could center it, but I don't like centering it unless I do center them on the inside panels. But on the outside, I like moving them this way. I like moving them to the center, touching this, okay, touching this and leaving that 1/4 inch around the sides. Or I like pushing it up against the corners and leaving a nice margin right there. So they're your two choices. Okay, all the foiled sides would be on the outside of your card. This camera is loving this foil with all the bright shininess. Okay, just showing you that again. And now you take the dull side, and then you wouldn't be able to fit this triangle, right? This side fits on the outside. And then of course you have to be cognizant of which way the patterns go. Like that would look really nice like that. Okay, those are complementary colors, and one has a pattern and one has a solid. Okay, that's the kind of design I would do. Okay, and then, but when you turn this over, you can't fit this side inside. It won't, this side won't fit, so you have to flip it. And that's why the dull side fits on the inside. I used rolling adhesive to adhere them. And again, you would just use this side. I'm going to show you the inside of all my cards and talk about the materials I used. I'm using the Brightly Gleaming Suite by Stampin' Up. Okay, the Brightly Gleaming Suite contains designer series paper, the Gleaming Ornaments punch pack, all kinds of other things. I did get the stamp set and the punch pack because when you get those together, when a new catalog comes out, you save 10% when you buy these together. Plus, the punches can do other things. I don't have the other little things on my table right now, but I will show you the punches. This punch, I can show you the picture. These are the Gleaming Ornaments punches. This one here, I showed this in a prior tutorial last week. You can make a really cool cracker box. So I showed how to make this cracker box using some floral paper and this punch. I also have seen lately on Pinterest people making wreaths. They cut a bunch of these little ornaments out and they look like, then they fold them a little bit and they look like leaves, and you can make a nice Christmas wreath. Okay, so that's what this suite looks like, and there's the paper and there's the stamp set. All right. Leaving my website up there because I have a special going on until the end of September. And if you place an order of any items, you will get a designer series paper sampler stack, which I'll show you at the end of this video. I must move on to show you how I created this card. So let's open up the cards and show you the inside. Okay, so my scissors actually got stuck on my bulb. All right, here we go. So when you have these cards that made of foil, they're very thick. So the first card I made from my other tutorial, I created this one. And to try to seal it, to try to get them to stay together, I tucked this little bell underneath. And that sort of worked, but then I came up with a better way. Okay, so see, this one's staying together pretty well. See how I tucked the bell? I tucked one of the ornaments, not the bell, the ornaments under this circle. By the way, this is 1 3/4 inch circle, stamped vanilla, very vanilla sentiment. And I stamped it using Pretty Peacock ink from the Gleaming Ornaments stamp set. Okay, and so I use Pretty Peacock ink. You open it up, and it says, you know, it says, deck the halls with boughs of holly and be jolly this season. This is very vanilla cardstock. Okay, and then here are the insides. I'm going to show you the others, and then I discovered a way. So when I did the second card, I discovered a way to make them stay together even better. And by the way, I'm using linen twine, I mean, that I have from one of my paper pumpkin kits. This is just twine. It helps keep the cards together. But look, I have a method, so you don't really need the twine. So what I came up with this time is, this is 1 3/4. The outer circle is 2 inches. Then I did 2 1/4 inches for this piece of copper. And what I did is I made a big old 2 1/4 inch circle and I tucked it. Okay, so watch how it tucks under. See? So I made this circle tuck under that circle. So you can just use circles and ornaments to tuck, to help tuck your card and keep it staying together. And then again, more designer series paper. I'm not using the shiny sides on the inside. I'm using this side. I'm using the flatter, the plain sides of the designer series paper. Okay, lastly, the one that we just made. Oh, and by the way, I did stamp this ornament in what's called hold on, I have to find the name of it. Okay, this is, it doesn't come like this. It's just that at the time when I ordered this, there was no stamp pad. We were out of them, but we had the re-inker. Delicata. It's called Celestial Copper Delicata ink. This ink is so cool because it's like you're embossing. Okay, let me show you. Find one. Here's one. I stamped this and I just heat set it a little bit, but I didn't actually emboss it. It looks like I used copper embossing powder, doesn't it? If you're used to embossing. This is just that ink, and I just heat set it. Now these, I stamped in Pretty Peacock, and then I took this little guy. He's called what is he called? A blender pen, okay? And I took the blender pen, and I took some copper from my little ink re-inker pad, and I dipped into it, and I colored the top of these ornaments, okay? And I didn't think the inside needed to be colored. I just liked the way that they came out with all the pretty design from the Pretty Peacock. Then I did some extra punching of designer series paper. Okay, last card. I like the vertical card better after playing around with it. It stays together better. It stays shut better, I mean. It kind of, the tucking worked a little better, my circle. See? And that's the inside of that card. And you just have to remember to stamp again in the vertical orientation. And then you just tuck those under there. And then I just used dimensionals for this one. I popped these up with dimensionals. 1 3/4, 2-inch circle, and 2 1/4-inch circle. And I'll write all this out. All right, so if you order by September 30th, we're having this designer series paper sale. I'm just mentioning this in all my videos from now until September 30th. I'm going to mention this in my videos. So you're going to hear me say this because it's a good deal. I mean, you really get, like, you get a quarter off. By getting 3 and getting 1 free, you're getting 4 papers. So really, that in essence, that's a 25% discount on paper. But really, it's even better because one of the papers you can get is pressed petals. And if you add this paper fourth, if you add the most expensive paper, the one that's $14.50, if you add it as the 4th item in your cart, this will be the free one. So whatever item you add 4th will be the free one. So what I want to do real quickly is show you what you will get from me and something you can make out of designer series paper. So I have these samplers. I'm giving out a sampler from now until the end of the month. So if you order from my store, and there's a host code on my store's website. I don't know it by hand, and off the top of my head, by hand. Listen to me. I don't know it off the top of my head, but if on this website is a host code, and so please use the host code unless you're going to order $150 or more, then you'll get Stampin' Rewards, and you'll get another 10% off, and go for it. I'd love for you all to save money. So this is Bird Ballad, Dino Roar, Follow Your Art. I'm just showing you the 10 papers that are on sale right now. These are from our annual catalog. Magnolia Lane, Come Sail Away, Perennial Essence. I don't know if I've been turning them over. Good, I have been turning them over. See a Silhouette, Garden Lane, what did I call it? Pressed Petals. This is a sample of a sampler I'm giving out too. And Pressed Petals. Okay, so these are the 10, except for also there's something called Woven Threads. These are the ones on sale. But my sampler also includes ones from the holiday catalog. Okay, and like you just saw this one, right? And this is specialty paper. And then here's another one. This is from the holiday catalog, and this is from our annual catalog Mosaic specialty paper. So my sampler it contains 15 different pieces of 6x6 cut up paper. So you'll be able to make all kinds of cool little things with it, including these little boxes. This little boxes I made using what's called the mini Curvy Keepsake box. And this is just showing the 10 designer series paper right now that are on sale. And this is the one I don't have the 6x6 sheet of because I only have little scraps of it left. So with my little scraps, I made this cute mini Curvy Keepsake using the different colors of woven threads, designer series paper. But I mean, you can just get an idea of, make little treat boxes. And hopefully before the 30th, I'll be able to do I'll have more examples of what you can do with designer series paper on my channel. But anyway, thank you for watching. This is the Papered Chef, and I'll see you next time.